Hey friends, and welcome back to the channel. So as you can see, our sweet Malakhi was born. If you are new around here and you don't know who we are, my name is Megan. My husband Kenneth, our son Declan, and our new baby Malakhi all live off-grid in South Carolina. Now we currently live in a camper while we build our shed to house, and that is a whole nother story. And Malakhi here was born at home in a camper. It was a long 28-hour labor, and I'm here today to share his birth story with you. Now, some of our friends here on this channel have been here with us since the beginning. They have watched Declan grow up, and they know of our history and our struggles of getting pregnant. And some of y'all have been here through every bit of my pregnancy. You've seen the gender reveals, you've cheered me on when I have felt awful, and you've stood beside us as I've kind of went dark on YouTube just because I was so sick and exhausted, especially near the end of my pregnancy. It was kind of rough on me. So let's get started on his birth story and tell you how Malakhi come to join our family on October 14th. That is his birthday, and we're here to share it with you. So at the end of my pregnancy, Malakhi had actually moved down and already engaged within my pelvis. And, you know, it's just one of the things you go through in your pregnancy. So about the middle of 37 weeks, I started having contractions. Nothing abnormal. You know, they would come, they would go. Prodromal labor is what they're called. They weren't really Braxton Hicks contractions. They were real labor contractions, but they would fizzle out. And then one day at work on Saturday, I had these prodromal contractions all day off and on and thought nothing of it. Went home, kind of rested, had some throughout the night, still thinking nothing of it because they're not consistent. They come, they go, they speed up, they slow down. You know, they're not anything really timeable. They're just kind of your body getting ready for labor. And so I was like, okay, whatever. I'll go to sleep. That usually gets rid of them. When I wake up, it's all fine. I woke up 8 o'clock the next morning. It was not all fine. Pretty sure I'm in labor. Started this video earlier in the day. Contractions started yesterday, kind of spotty. I'm known to have prodromal labor. I had it for 3 weeks with Declan. I've had contractions off and on for the past few weeks, so I didn't really think anything about it yesterday. Then last night they started getting closer together, more consistent. Had them off and on throughout the night while I slept. Woke up this morning, still contracting. They are about every 10 minutes and have been since 8 o'clock this morning. It is 2:30 in the afternoon. I've timed them for a few hours throughout the day, not the whole day, not consistently. I've done the mile circuit, and I just called the home birth midwives and let them know what's going on. We're going to go to town and see if we can distract me, walk around, hopefully speed things up, because every 10 minutes is not making any progress, and see how it goes. We'll be back and we will let you know. As I walked, they got closer together and stronger, and at one point they were every 3 to 5 minutes, and I said, oh, time to head back home. We turned around and we come back home. On the way home, they started slowing down some, so we stopped at the park, let Declan play. I kept walking while he played, and, you know, I'm checking in with my midwives and letting them know, hey, this is what's going on. They're coming closer together, but the intensity isn't getting stronger, so I think we're still a ways off in labor. And at this point, it was probably 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so from 8 a.m. to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I had been contracting. It had gotten progressively closer, but not stronger. And they were like, all right, just keep us updated. So at about 5 o'clock, my water broke, but my contractions aren't any closer together. So we still need to hold off on having y'all come on out. Because I am a very much, I need to do this my own way. Like, let me focus inward and kind of distract myself, or focus inward and kind of just breathe through it. And I don't want a whole lot of people around me. So they were totally cool. They're like, all right, just keep us updated. Well, my labor has stalled, which sucks. No contractions in probably the last hour after having them all day. And when we were out in town and I was up walking, having them as frequently as every 3 to 5 minutes. And I come back home and nothing. So frustrated. So I let my midwives know, and they recommend that I take this calcium magnesium supplement that they had, and then do some of the mile circuits, try some lunges. Pretty sure I'm leaking amniotic fluid, so we definitely need this labor to progress. Still nothing. It's dark outside, but I'm about to go walk anyways. See how it goes. So my midwives wanted to come over and lay eyes on me and check me out and just see where I was at mentally and physically and what was going on. Perfect. Love it. So they come over and we're talking through the options, and I'm explaining to them, you know, my contractions had spaced back out. My water is broke. So in a hospital, that puts you on a strict timetable. Once your water is broke, they really like the baby to be born within 24 hours to decrease the risk of infection. Home birthing midwives generally allow it to go a little bit longer, but they still do like the baby to be born fairly quickly, you know, in a time frame to keep down your risk of infection, but they're a little bit more lenient with it. But still, I couldn't just keep going another few days or weeks or, you know, however long, because my water broke, and that allowed bacteria to get to Malakhi, and he could get very sick in there, and I could get sick from uterine infection. So we kind of were like, okay, at this point we have a confirmed water breaking, like we got to get something done. So I asked their opinion. I've tried the mile circuit. I've already tried it several times throughout the day. That is different positionings you can get into, you know, kind of bent over and then side lying and then doing side steps or curb stepping or something to shift your pelvis so that it's not lined up correctly to allow the baby to kind of set lower in it. I tried all the things. So far, not working. They wanted me to try lunges. I tried lunges. It just wasn't working. For some reason, my contractions had stopped basically, and I didn't know why. So they had some tinctures with them that they were willing to let me try if I was comfortable with it. And the thing with home birthing midwives, or at least with mine, that I found so incredible was that everything was an option. It was, okay, these are your options. You can keep going as you're going. You can try this. We can check your dilation to see what's going on. We can try this different position. We can allow you to sleep and see if maybe rest is what you need. It was just all these little things. They did recommend me go ahead and put Declan to bed, and maybe that would allow my body to relax enough so that I'm not focused on him and I could focus on having a baby. So we tried that. I did go ahead and try some tinctures. They did work to get contractions going again, so that made me feel better because I felt like we were making progress. 9 o'clock at night when we started the tinctures, because that's when Declan's bedtime was. Contractions started picking back up. I kind of labored for a few hours on my birthing ball. My midwives hung out with us, watched a little bit of TV in between contractions, that sort of deal, but nothing was really progressing. At midnight, they suggested I lay down and take a nap and try to sleep to allow my body to do what it needed to do while I rested so I would have the energy for delivery. So we started at 8 o'clock in the morning. That's when I count time of labor because I knew then it wasn't prodromal. We are now at midnight It's been a long 16 hours and they wanted me to sleep. And I was like, you know what, whatever, I'll try to sleep. So I went and laid down and I slept. And I think I slept until about 2 o'clock, kind of off and on. Some contractions would wake me up, but at least I got a little bit of rest. And about 2 o'clock, I woke up. I could not go back to sleep. Declan was asleep. Kenneth was asleep. My midwife had left the camper and kind of let me do my own thing and just told me to call him when I was ready. So I was like, okay, I'm not waking anybody up. Contractions are kind of strong, but we're gonna deal with it. And so I labored on my own, rested in between when I could, you know, just kind of dealt with it, breathed through them when I couldn't. By about 5 o'clock that morning, Declan had woke up. I don't know if I woke him up or if he just woke up. And he come and he laid with me on the couch in between contractions. At about 5:30, I woke Kenneth up because the contractions were too much. I couldn't focus on being a mom to Declan and being a woman in labor. So Kenneth got up and he took control of Declan. And I got on my birthing ball and just kind of dealt with the contractions. I breathed through them, listened to music, put some headphones on, kind of just rocked my way through them. So at about 6:30 that morning, I messaged my midwives and I was like, hey, contractions are getting much closer together. We're about every 3 to 5 minutes. They are much stronger in intensity and I am kind of struggling to deal with some of them, so I know we're progressing. And they're like, okay, cool, on our way. And so they weren't that far away. And they come and they quietly make their way in. And one of them, Amanda, sits down beside me where I am on my birthing ball and she just quietly checks me out, listens to Malakhi's heartbeat, makes sure he's good, checks my vitals, makes sure I'm good, and then just steps back and lets me do my thing. And that's the beauty of home birth midwives, is they're there and they wait for you to acknowledge them, and then they do what they need to do and they fade into the background. And so I remember Declan was awake, right? They were watching Scooby-Doo on the TV. And so I've got headphones on. I actually had Declan's headphones on because mine are big and bulky and I just did not want to deal with them. I use them for editing. So I had Declan's headphones on and I had my music playing. And in the background I can hear Scooby-Doo. So through my contractions I can hear Scooby-Doo going on. And it just was cracking me up. But the midwives were watching Scooby-Doo with Declan and Kenneth and kind of just chit-chatting and hanging out and letting me do what I felt like I needed to do. And so previously at 8 o'clock the previous night, they had checked my cervix to kind of see where we were at. And I want to say I was like dilated to a 4 then, since I had labored all night and we were at 24 hours into labor. They, you know, were like, hey, do you want to know if you've made progress? Do you want us to check your cervix and see what's going on? Or do you just want to keep going how you are? And I like the data. Whether you want it done or not, that's cool. I wanted to know, had I progressed? And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. They checked my cervix. They're like, okay, you're dilated to a 6, but we can feel a water bag that's blocking Malakhi's head. And so that's when we realized that my water had broken, but it had only broken high. And so I still had what they call a 4 bag that was in front. It was before Malakhi and against my cervix. And so they gave me the option, would you like us to finish breaking your water? Because it's already broke, so Malakhi's not sitting in all that water anymore up at the top, but you're having that water in between his head and your cervix, so it's kind of impairing dilation. And I was like, yeah, he's not getting the benefit from it, and I'm not getting the benefit from it being broken. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way and see if we progress. So we did. And I want to say it was a little after 8, somewhere around 8, 9-ish. And then contractions got much stronger because now he's sitting completely against my cervix. And my body's like, oh yeah, hey, we're about to get a baby out of here. And so they're progressing and they're progressing. And about 11, oh man, they were ridiculous. Like awful. Little did I know that, you know, that's the transition phase. The phase that nobody wants to be in. And so they were like, okay, let's check your cervix one more time and see if you're ready to push. And I wasn't. Unfortunately, I had only dilated to an 8. Even though I felt like I had the urge to push, and they were like, okay, if you strongly feel like you need to push, we'll do that because you need to listen to your body. But we're telling you your cervix is only at 8 right now, so if you can try position changes to see if you can finish dilating, maybe that will help. And so we tried that, and I tried everything, but for some reason, it was the most intense pain I had ever felt in my life. They were constantly asking, where are you feeling this pain? Because I had an anterior placenta, which means it's in the front. And where I felt this sharp, incredible pain was in the front. And so one thing you always worry about when you're pregnant is an abrupted placenta. And so they wanted to know where this pain was so that they could rule out that it was an abruption. And I could tell them specifically, like it was a horizontal line across the top of my pelvis. It felt like somebody took a hot burning piece of metal and stuck it up to my pelvis in a straight line every time I had a contraction. Every time. And they were coming back to back at this point. And it was so intense. And they were like, okay, try laying down. Try standing up. Try getting on your hands and knees. Try all these different positions to try to relieve that pain. But it was like nothing would work. I moved throughout the camper, and I don't have any of this on video because I was not in my right mind. Like, I wish I had gotten it on video because I know I probably was a hot freaking mess because I could not get comfortable, and there was no one position that would relieve this pain. And it wasn't, the pressure from contractions is different. Like, that's intense. That is like you're being squeezed. No, this was like a burning pain, and it was with every contraction in the exact same spot for what felt like forever, but probably considering this started at about 11 and Malakhi was born at 12:42 and I pushed for an hour, it probably was not no more than like 30-45 minutes, but it felt horrible. And so I was up and down and across the camper and walking and trying different positions. I even tried on the toilet because some women get great relief. Well, that was fine. For some, it helped that sharp, intense pain, but it made me feel like I wanted to push and I couldn't push in there. I couldn't get leverage and I was so uncomfortable. My midwives were great. They were like, okay, try this. Can you sit on your ball? Does that make it better or worse? Do you want to try this position? Here, have Kenneth support you. And I mean, at times during my labor, Kenneth was physically holding me up because I felt like I needed to stand, but I didn't have the strength to stand. And so he was there with me the whole time. Declan, fantastic. Y'all, that kid was sitting on the couch kind of watching, letting all of it go down. The midwives were right there with me. Wherever I moved, they moved. And I was all over the place. And at the time, I was like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know if I can do this. And that's what I can't do this is what I kept telling him. I can't do this. I don't know that I can do this. And I know in my mind that that is commonly said during transition of labor. Women always say they can't do it during that transition because it's overwhelming. And that means we're almost at the end. It has been exhausting. And at one point I said, y'all, I'm so tired. I'm so tired because we had already been at this for 26 hours of labor. And I may have gotten 2 hours of sleep during it. It was rough. And so their solution was not, let's transfer to the hospital. Let's do this. It was to tell Kenneth, grab the honey. And so he gets down one of our Azure Standard big mason jars of honey and a spoonful, and he spoon feeds me honey to give my body a shot of glucose and nutrients to help me complete labor. And that was their thing. And I was so worried because the intense pain, and I did not feel like I was coping well with it. And then I was so tired and I was like, oh my God, they're going to make me transfer to a hospital. And I did not want Malakhi to have to be born in a hospital with Declan not being there. But they didn't. They just said grab the honey. And so Kenneth did. So I took a big mouthful of honey and I was like, all right, we're going to get through this. We're going to do this. And then I noticed that pain had receded. And I never knew at that point what it was that had caused that pain. Spoiler alert, I did find out, and I will let y'all know here shortly, what caused that pain, but I didn't know. And my midwives were straight up honest with me, and they were like, okay, listen, anytime we've had a mom who can very specifically tell us there's a pain somewhere, it is usually that there's a hand in the way, and maybe that baby has a hand up by its face or something or across its chest, but there is a hand in the way, and that's what they're feeling. That's that pain. And I was like, okay. And I remember asking, well, what do we do? And she says, you push through it. And I was like, okay. Well, We tried different positions. I felt that urge to push, and they're like, if you feel it, girl, go with it. And so I did. But I remember telling them over and over, I can feel him. He's not moving. Like, I don't know what's wrong, but he will not come down. And I could very clearly feel that I was pushing but not progressing. And so they said, okay, let's check your cervix one more time to see what's going on. And so we did. And come to find out, I had what's called an anterior lip. So that means the cervix dilated on one side but not the other all the way. And so there was a portion of the cervix that was still blocking his head. And she's like, but I can feel capit, which is when their head comes out kind of like a cone shape. She's like, I can feel it. Like, I can feel capit on his head. And she had been saying previously throughout that she could feel molding and she could feel his suture line. But now she could feel that his head was actually trying to come through, but that cervix was stopping it and was kind of making it cone shape. And she's like, okay, I can hold that cervix back and allow you to push through it if that's what we need to do. And they tried at one point in time and I was like, it hurts so bad. And so they stopped and they let me push on my own, and we pushed in different positions and throughout the camper, and pushed in the bathroom, and we pushed standing up and on my ball and in the bed. And I was literally all over the place, guys. That's why it's not on camera, because I could not even tell you where my camera was during all of this, much less whether it was on or not. I was very much, they say you go in your primal brain, and that's very much what I was. I could focus on nothing but what my body was doing. I didn't quite know where Declan was. I was not focused on him. I could literally focus on nothing but myself and what was going on internally. But it was great. They kept telling me, I'm so glad you're listening to your body. Focus on you and what you're going through. And so that's what I was doing. I was focusing on me and what I felt like I needed to do in that moment. Whether I needed to push or I needed to move, I stand up, I sat down. Through some contractions, I did push through some. I just breathed through them. You know, it was very much of what I felt like I needed to do. And they were all for it, man. All for it. And I loved that. Eventually, we made our way back to the bed. And this is where Malakhi was born. And I don't know how we fit 2 midwives, Kenneth, Declan, and myself here in our bedroom in a camper, but we did. And Declan was present when Malakhi was born, and he did great, y'all. He did so good. Finally, I was in a side lying position, so on my right side, with my left leg up. One of my midwives had it pressed against her leg to give me something to push off of, and Kenneth was kind of behind me helping to lift me up with each contraction so I could really curl around it. My other midwife had given me her arm to pull up against, and once again she was like, let's try to push that cervix back. And I said, okay, because at this point I was ready to do anything to get this child out. We are at 28 hours of labor and almost an hour into pushing, and I was exhausted. She put her hand in to push the lip back. I'm pushing. She's like, I know it hurts. Push through the burn. I know it hurts. And so I did. And eventually Malakhi was born with the surprise that he was sunny side up the whole time. And so his head was not positioned correctly on my cervix, and that's why my labor kind of started and stopped and stalled out, because my body was trying to get him in a good position and he wasn't doing it. And then my cervix couldn't fully dilate because his head was positioned funky. It was rough. An hour of pushing, and he's finally born. He made it. I am going to tell you where that pain come from. We're almost there, I promise. And so I was literally laid across my bed this way. My head was over here. I'm at the foot of the bed. My legs are over here facing the cabinets, and as you can see, the top of the bed is behind me. And Declan was beside my head the whole time I pushed. Kenneth was right there next to Declan, and so that he could help hold me up. And then my 2 midwives were over here at the side of the bed. And so we were all in a funky position. Declan cut Malakhi's cord after, you know, we did delayed cord clamping. I don't know, it was like 10 minutes or something before his cord was cut. But Declan cut it, and it was so sweet and precious. And the blood, when he first made the first cut, it squirted blood on his thumb. And he's like, ah! And I was like, it's okay, it's okay. It's okay. It does that sometimes. And so he held that thumb to the side and cut with the other hand and kept cutting, and he got it cut. And he thinks it's awesome now that he cut his brother's umbilical cord, but he was not a fan of it at the time when it squirted blood on him. And my midwives were so calm and collected that at first it took me a minute to realize that I was bleeding, and I was bleeding a good amount. And I know everybody always wonders, what do you do at home when something goes wrong. And I'm a nurse, for those of y'all who don't know. I technically work in a special care nursery, which is level 2 NICU, and I am going back to work after I have my maternity leave with Malakhi as a labor and delivery nurse. And so I work with a lot of labor and delivery nurses and NICU nurses and OB nurses, of course, in my field. And they would always say, well, what happens if XYZ happens during your home birth? What do you do? How are you prepared to handle this? And which I thought was great, because it did help me think through all the different scenarios, and I could ask my midwives, hey, if this does happen, what do we do? And so I know what a postpartum bleed is supposed to look like, and I know what a postpartum hemorrhage looks like in a hospital setting. And it's not something I wanted to experience with Declan. I didn't have any issues. He was a hospital induction, 15 hours from start of labor till baby. I pushed 30 minutes. He was born, had no bleeding. I was up walking within an hour after he was born, and I was great. He was great, perfect, no issues. Malakhi had to be our troublemaker who comes born sunny side up, and 28 hours of labor, and it was so incredibly intense, and then I'm bleeding. And so my midwives are very calm about it. I knew I was bleeding. I could feel it. And at one point in time, Declan even said, Mama, you're bleeding. And I was like, it's okay, buddy. But the midwives were so cool and calm and collected that he wasn't stressed. He wasn't scared. I wasn't scared. They had put Malakhi straight up on my chest, and he was right there with me. All they said was, if you can get him to latch, that would be helpful. They never tried to take my baby from me. He was right there with me throughout the whole thing. And they walked me through it, and they're like, okay, Megan, you need a shot of Pitocin. They had it ready. IM injection to the thigh. I was like, okay, let's do this. And she kept rubbing my fundus. I was still bleeding. She's like, you need a second shot. Okay, I trust you. Like, I trust my midwives. I've seen the same ones throughout my entire prenatal care. They've been with me through this entire labor. Like, I trust them completely. And she said I needed a second shot. I know they don't do medications unless it's needed. And so like, okay, let's do it. So they do the second shot, and she's rubbing my fundus, and I'm still bleeding. So they give me 2 pills to kind of help the bleeding. They're very calm about it. They're not stressed. So I wasn't stressed. Declan wasn't stressed. Kenneth was probably stressing a little bit, but that's because I'm his wife and he's seeing me bleed, you know. And there's nothing he can do to help. And I think that kind of stressed him a little bit. But Declan never realized anything was going on. And he was very calm, which I was so thankful for. And I was able to be calm, and I had Malakhi on my chest. And so that was perfect. And finally they did get the bleeding to slow down and stop. And I think our total blood loss was 900 mLs. And so that's 100 mLs short of a liter. They handled it perfectly. And so it was a very calm, collected situation, and it was done with. I mean, in a hospital, it would have been a little bit more stressful because we do have certain protocols we have to follow. At so many mLs, we do this. At so many mLs, we do that. We're constantly doing this and that because we're trained to handle emergency situations, and we want to get that emergency down before it gets any worse. And they kind of took the opposite approach and just kind of kept it cool and calm and collected, and they didn't treat it as an emergency. It was just something that was a natural part of labor sometimes. They were like, look, you're tired, your uterus is tired, you've had a long labor, your baby was sunny side up, you have an anterior placenta. All of these things kind of add up, and that can lead to some excess bleeding. It's normal, it's okay, that's what we're here for. We're trained to handle these situations. And they handled it very smoothly, and I was so thankful for that. And they stayed with me till Kenneth went and got some food, and we all ate, and they made sure my bleeding was good and that Malakhi was good and he was eating. And then they left. They come back the next day, and they checked on me, and they checked on Malakhi, and they did 24-hour testing, whatever I wanted to have done. Then they made sure I was okay mentally, physically, if I needed anything, and then they left. And then they come back 3 days later. Oh, are you getting hot? Oh, is that what you needed? They did his hearing screen and checked on him again and checked his weight. He went back up to birth weight. That was Friday. He was born Monday, so it was like 5 days of life. And so they'll be coming back tomorrow to check his weight again and see how he's progressing, see if he's back up to birth weight yet. Oh, goodness. They have done his birth certificate, filed his social security stuff, everything. And they've actually recommended that I don't leave the house yet. And so their thing is they want me in the bed for the first week, in the house for at least 2 weeks, and then to take it easy after that. And all I can think is, at the hospital, I can't imagine telling a mom, don't leave your house for 2 weeks. Because we're telling them, your baby has to be at the pediatrician in 1 to 2 days. If you've had a C-section, you need to be at the doctor at 1 week post C-section, have that incision checked. It's a lot of things. When you're at the hospital, you're kind of sent home with a list of things you have to do afterwards, and that require you to leave your house and to get up and to get dressed and to get moving and all the things. But here, they come to me and I've been in my bed and I've relaxed, and Kenna's helped take care of me and Declan's helped take care of me, and we've all teamed up to take care of Malakhi, and it's been so peaceful and so restful. And I've really just focused on feeding and caring for Malakhi and feeding and caring for myself, and it's been wonderful because my midwives come to me and they've handled it all. Now, what was causing that incredibly intense pain at the end of my labor, we figured out the first night after Malakhi was born, because this child had a bruise that ran straight down his forearm. And so my midwife was right. It was a hand, or more likely an arm. And as he was coming down into my pelvis, he had his arm up across his chest. And so that was that straight line of pain, is every time I contracted, that arm is a bone and it don't bend, and the contraction can't go around it, and it can't squeeze it because it's stuck there. And so his arm was in the way and was causing that intense pain, and he couldn't move down because his arm was lodged on top of my pelvis. Eventually, he was able to just kind of get it out of the way and come down so that he could be born. But that was that intense pain with his arm. And now he's starting to get hungry and fussy. So here are some pictures of our beautiful Malakhi, and I hope you have enjoyed listening to how he was born at home in a camper. I was a little stressed, to be honest, about him being born in a camper, since our shed house did not get finished in time. But you know what? It was fine. We had plenty of space. Everybody was able to stay out of each other's way. I was able to get up and move around. And this is where we've lived the past few years, so I was comfortable here. So it actually wasn't a big deal. I was so stressed about having a baby in a camper, but now I can't imagine having him any other place. This is just home for us until our house is finished, and I'm glad he was born here. So that's all I have for you today, friend. There are some more videos coming out that I filmed during my pregnancy, but didn't get a chance to edit because I either was sick or Malakhi came too soon. And so you will see those when the shed to house update. One is a butchering video where I compare how fast it took me to butcher chickens versus meat rabbits. And so expect to see those coming out, and expect to see my pregnant belly in them, even though Malakhi is already born. It's just how things are going to come, but I would already filmed those videos, so I do want to get them out to y'all. If you have any questions about home birthing or having a baby in a camper, or what we did or didn't do, please let me know, and I'd be happy to share some more information with y'all. If you have questions, drop them down below and I will answer them. And now, friends, an exclusive look at what it's like to be on bed rest with a new baby and a 5-year-old named Declan. He's such a treat. He is. Your brother is funny.
Hey guys, welcome back to our video. Today you're doing a coloring video. And I'm now gonna start. Mama's had her baby.
Yeah, how are you enjoying being a big brother?
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you love Malakhi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love when he's around.
You do?
Yeah, he makes me laugh.
Are you glad he's out of Mama's belly?
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
Well, guys, I'm just going to put my gloves on, the first part, so I don't get color on me, and I don't want to get color on me. I run the bed.
I made it for Daddy. It was his Christmas present one year.
What color do you like it?
I like this pink and orange one.
I like this color. This color and this color.
Do you know what's cool about this blanket?
What?
This blanket is how you learned your colors.
I didn't know that.
You and Daddy would lay in bed and Daddy would point to one of the squares and he would ask you, what color is that? And y'all would go square by square and name all the different colors, and that's how you learned your colors.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, guys, let me get the light blue and this light blue.
No, that's a cool light blue.
Yeah, and down. Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Glad I have gloves on.
Oh.
So, guys, now we're gonna color the. Now I'm coloring the sky blue.
Why are you fussing at me? For what? What are we fussing for?
Now, guys, we're gonna color the thing you need to. Now, I'm making the brain.
Oh, that's cool. What you drawing?
Something I want to.
Okay. Yes. I got you. Oh. Declan made a toast base. I sure do love when you come and spend time in here with me.
Why do you don't like it with what I am not?
Because I get bored without you here to entertain me. Did you just fall off the bed? Careful with that marker. Let me hold it till you get back up. That's good. I love it. You did such a good job.
Oh,
bye, friends.
Bye, friends. See you tomorrow.
And that's all we have for you today, friends. So until next time, bye. We will see you later.